Welcome to the Seahawkers podcast, week 6 live post-game reaction. I'm your co-host, Adam Emmer. And as you can see, I am not joined by my good buddy, Brandon Schultz. He's got birthday party things. I am joined by my other good buddy, Clinton Bonner, in what was a little bit of a dud of a game for the Seahawks as they fall to the 49ers 36-24. Clinton, how you feeling, buddy?
Well, as I said before we got just on air, it's going to be really cool when we stop getting our asses kicked. That's going to be fun. That'll be a fun day. And we want to wish a happy birthday to Brandon's daughter. It's actually my daughter's birthday today too, and Gino's birthday. And before we do get to that, we do have to say real quickly, Adam, I got to say already a big thanks to Samuel Gelber for coming in with the $12 super chat saying, full of hate and nausea, bad combo, bad start, but appreciative to you guys as always. Give us the strength to endure this rebuild. Well, now we got to play the role of Messiah, it seems here, Adam. I don't know how we feel about that, but I do love Sam, doing his thing. And I think we're here for each other. Cathartic. Let's talk about it.
You betcha. No, appreciate that a ton, Sam. And look, I feel a lot like this game, like LaVisca Chenault feels right now. Just hurling all over the place. A really rough, uneven game from the Seahawks. And look, I mean, we can get into the nitty gritty of all of it, but let's start big picture, Clinton.
Yeah.
I think at this point, you got to say this is a bad team. And what I mean by that is that the difference between bad teams to good teams to great teams, and even on individual player levels is consistency. And we see this team have fits and spurts of good play, and then fits and spurts of terrible play. And some of the terrible play come at the most terrible moments. And that's really the biggest problem with this team right now is consistency. And when you are an inconsistent team, you tend to turn over the ball a lot. And really that's the number one story of this game. There's lots of other, sub nuance to all this, but yeah, 3 turnovers, none from the Niners. You ain't gonna win that game.
No, you're not going to win that game. And I could begin to discern and begin to cope when I think of bad teams, and maybe we are, maybe we're not. But when I think of a bad team, I think of, I don't know, this year's Tennessee Titans, teams like that, Adam, that just can't function at all. They don't have the highs. You don't see them at all. So I'm not quite there. And it is simply, but it is, to your point, wild inconsistency, and it's just sloppy. Like, it's sloppy. And the punt that goes off the fingertips because we don't just run up and go get it, sloppy, or get, block the guy into it, or another punt return with D Williams when he has room, not just like hey, let it bounce to the 5, sure, if you're covered, but he has room, lets the ball bounce, they down the ball to 2-yard line again. Or LaVisca's fumble, or DK not holding on to one earlier in the game. Yeah, he's getting tugged, but it's in his hands. Hold on to the ball. Or JSN getting the ball punched out. Gino throwing 2 bad picks. Love taking a horrible angle on a busted play by Debo, and they're going 70 yards. I realize you're about to say, yeah, dude, that's what a bad team is. So take it away, man.
Well, look, and right now they're a bad team. I'm not saying that they can't crawl out of that and become a good team as the season progresses. You do see glimmers of hope in there. It's not, like you said, being the Titans or the Browns or, one of those god-awful franchises. Like, there's room for improvement there. But you just went up against a 49ers team that was reeling and was on the verge of being, put to sleep for the season. And you let them off the hook. You gave them life. And you mentioned like a handful of plays right there that really did turn the tide, let alone like just stupid mental errors throughout the game. For example, having the illegal motion penalty on the potential DK touchdown, which would have left 4 minutes left in the game. And then you have a chance to get back into things. Or the mental mistake by Jerome Baker on the big run at the end of the game. Like, they tried to pin that on Hankins. Hankins gets blocked by the center. He starts to squeeze that gap by pushing Brendel into the next offensive lineman. And there's Baker standing behind the defensive lineman right next to him, covering 0 gaps. Zero gaps. Dude goes right by him, and he looks around and is disgusted. Well, point the finger at you, man. You should be disgusted with yourself. I know one of the people that we're never disgusted with is our executive producer, Ryan 911. with the $9.99 super chat. Do appreciate that, man. On to the next, mini buy, on to Atlanta. Okay, fine. But I do think that we can take some time to have an honest discussion about where this team is after the last couple of games, because really, in my mind, Clinton, turnovers have been the difference from them being 6-0 and 3-3.
I mean, at least 4-2, potentially 5-1. The other games maybe or maybe one. Maybe we're in it. The Detroit game, if DK doesn't make the fumble, et cetera, et cetera. But whatever. I think we at least we're 4-2, which at that point be like, wow, that's phenomenal. Let's ride. We're good with 4-2 at this point, especially now that we're 3-3. Your points about the run fit. Look, the Niners are they run the zone stuff outside. They do the stretch plays outside. And they've been doing it for, I don't know, like it looks like 15 years now. Mm-hmm. And we still can't stop it. I thought the run defense up the middle was a lot better today. So to say something good about the game, I thought the up the gut stuff, the like between the tackle stuff was good. Between the guards, good. At least better. And then the outside stretch stuff it was bad. It was a disaster again, right? So maybe it's an incremental gain to say the up the middle stuff was better, but overall the run fits everything else still not there. Better until the big bust at the end, and then it's game over time. It's very, very frustrating. And then so I guess let's stick on the defensive side of the ball. What else is there for you? I see that on screen. We saw something earlier from Nick's. I think is a pretty good topic. I think it's here we go.
Yeah, these were all kind of in the same bag. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So we have something from Nick saying McDonald was a dud of a hire. He was supposed to be a defensive guru, and his defense is trash. Okay. You know what? I'll let you go first. I have an opinion here, but I think we may share at least similarities. Take it away.
You bet. Well, I think a couple things. Number one, I've been saying this for a few weeks now. I said it at the beginning of the season. I've been saying this since the hiring of Coach Mike. Look, it's not going to be just a steady ascent to awesomeness. Like there's going to be some ups and downs, and really in the first year, there might be more downs than ups. That doesn't mean that he's a crappy coach. It doesn't mean he's not a defensive guru, all that stuff. And then on top of that, I remember when he became the defensive coordinator of the Baltimore Ravens, those first 4 or 5 games for the Ravens were a disaster. Like they did not look good at all. So it took him some time there with guys that he, had been around at least a little bit. This is a whole new roster that he's working with here. And at the end of the day, it's going to take some time. So is he trash right now? Sure. I think you can say right now, if you put that qualifier on it, but is the head coach a fraud? I saw that in one of the comments. No, like all of this stuff. It's a brand new young coaching staff with a relatively young team that fought back in this game, but honestly got probably their worst game of the season from their quarterback. And the defense is, let's face it, it has a long ways to go before it's a real deal unit. I don't know if you were kind of in mind meld on that, Clinton, or if you had a different perspective on it.
Yeah, yes. And I think the addition for me is it's just too soon. We're 6 games in, it's 3-3, and you definitely nailed it until he got Roquan Smith and a couple of players in Baltimore. It didn't really gel. It didn't come together that quickly. So a little bit of patience. I'm not looking ahead too much. However, to say quickly before the bye, we got the Falcons, Bills, and Rams. Okay, figure it out. Go 2-1 somehow. Go 2-1. And then let's talk at the bye week in year 1. Now, if it goes sideways and just keeps going south, this is a 3-game streak. All right, well, then let's talk at the bye week if we're sitting at 3-6, but still, it'll be year 1. And there's imprints of, that's the thing, is that there's imprints of goodness on both sides of the ball. One of the things, to flip it over to the other side, that was pretty deflating. 16-0, ending the half. We finally get our first real good drive. Actually, the first drive was good too. It ended in the interception, the first bad interception that Geno threw. But the last drive of the half as well. And we don't get it in. And one of the comments I saw earlier that bugged me was we had about 21 seconds to go and a first down at whatever it was, the half-yard line or so. And we didn't run the ball. It's like, I know we're out of timeouts. I get that, but you could run once get back up. And if you have to, throw an out, you can go do it. You can run one time in that area too. And then I'll just end that with enough with the fades in the end zone then too. Like, don't we have enough wily guys that we could run a little bit of trickery to go get, the half yard the way the Chiefs do it all the time? But man, between not just gelling it in the end zone, at least trying one time, and then the fades, that was a pretty big dud to end the first half. 16-7 would have felt pretty good. 16-3, not quite as much, man.
Yeah, it's funny. I didn't realize that sound could carry as far as it did all the way from Montana to Connecticut, because you must have heard me yelling effing fades at the screen in that sequence of events there. The thing that bothered me the most about all of that, whether or not they could get to a run there, I don't think so. I mean, you're not wrong, but dang, like that would have been tight. I do think that not going for it on fourth there is derelict on duty. Like, you're down basically. I mean, I know it's technically 2 scores if you get 2 2-point conversions, but that's all pie in the sky shit. Like, you're down de facto 3 scores. Like, go for it on fourth. Like, what's the difference between 16-3 and 16-0? Like, I mean, that really doesn't feel all that different. And they were getting the ball coming out in the second half, which they scored on that possession. Like, get aggressive. I've been hearing this entire time that this coaching staff wants to play an aggressive style of football. Yeah, right there, you go for it on fourth down. What's there to lose? It's not like you're giving up the ball to them with time to march back down the field or anything like that. Like, we're talking a 3-point swing at worst. Like, I hated it.
Yeah, it felt a little bit of weak sauce there. I know we got other topics to canvas too. I will say we did get 3 there, and then we found ourselves with a chance, down 6 with the ball. We did get back into that. We got back into that position. So the 3 points did matter there. So we were looking at another Arizona 49ers comeback type thing where they're just stalling out. Of course, it doesn't end that way. All right. So where else you want to take this, man? There's plenty other things that we can chat about. You want to stick on the offense, you want to go to the defense, or you want to talk about how dreadful our freaking special teams were, because they were bad too.
Yeah, well, just take your pick there. I want to start with Carly here. This was the game that let the fact that this is a rebuild sink in. At this point, I'm going to just have fun and hope for the best. Low expectations help. And look, I appreciate you as always, Car, and the $4.99. That's amazing. Thank you for your generosity. But with that said, I mean, this is one of the things that we talked about a lot at the end of last season when the Fire Pete crowd was at its most boisterous. And we said, well, okay, you're not happy with 9-win seasons, 10-win seasons right in there. All right, well, let's go get the new coach. And if it doesn't turn out to be a 9 or 10-win season, you know how many complaints I want to hear? Freaking 0. Because this is part of the deal. You've got a young coach with a young staff and an offensive coordinator that's never coached in this league. And boy, they got a long ways to go to get this thing cleaned up. I think as far as which unit failed the most today and which one do we want to go with and break down the most, literally it's the take your pick thing. This is bad. Let's go offense, because I am seeing one comment here from Schechter 7. Gino ain't it. And look, he's been playing lights out up until this game, and pretty much the majority of his turnovers throughout the first 5 games there were either excusable, or you understand like what's happening in that moment, or just a bad luck thing. These 2 picks in this game, they were god awful. The late pick, that was terrible. I know Herb Street tried to give him a college excuse of, DK didn't bend the route in enough. How do you know? Does he know what the route's supposed to be? Like that's just a terrible pick. You can't throw that ball there.
Yeah, I thought DK could have done, a bit more, like just to keep it flat as opposed to getting depth there, but it doesn't really matter. It was a very, very untimely, just a bad throw into a bad part of the field. This was Gino's worst game of the year by a pretty good stretch. And it wasn't just the interceptions either. He did a nice job once again, moving out of pocket pressure, getting outside, stepping up, hanging in there, making some plays. But he also, for the first, I don't know, maybe 15 minutes of the game or 20 minutes of the game clock, like a quarter and a half, he was sailing everything, man. He had JSN on that little crosser on an early third down. It's like 5 yards over his head, the first interception, 5 yards over Lockett's head. I think it was Lockett. So it was a combination of he was off early. Then he seemed to get right with his accuracy, at least. And then he just had bad decision making, just a couple of times. And that's all it takes, because we lost the turnover battle 3-0 and should have been 4-0. Let's be fair. And then JSN gets the ball punched out too. Could have been 5-0. I mean, you're not going to beat a team like the Niners when you give the ball up 3 times. Let's talk a little bit about, did you feel the balance was a little better today? We ran the ball more. Do you think there was, and then we got behind and it kind of had to stop for a little bit. But when we were in it, were you feeling a bit better, even if we're getting 2 yards or 4 yards, whatever it was per clip? Were you feeling a little bit better that the offense was more NFL style? Because I know you've talked about that in the past quite a bit.
I do. I think Grubb was showing that he's learning from some of his mistakes, and I wanted to get to the Madgrass here. Look, buddy, it's okay. Like, the super chats are just for appreciation for us, but you don't have to spend money to get your chat read, man. You make a nice chat here, we'll throw it up on screen. We appreciate you being with us, man. Thanks for tuning in after a tough loss. I'd like to hear what he thinks about the balance of the offense here in this game, because I do think Grubb was trying to do the right thing in terms of getting the run pass ratio correct. And really, at the end of the day, in the first half, they were running a lot on first down. It doesn't always have to be on first down that you run. You can run on the other downs. It doesn't have to just be a first down run every time. But the real problem is that while trying to work out that run pass ratio, they were really just force feeding the ball to DK the entire time. Like, when was
early too?
When was Tyler and JSN getting involved in the first half? Hardly at all. And I think that was a bit of a problem still.
Yeah, it did seem a little force fed. It's hard telling, because maybe that's what was open. We'll see. But there was also later in the game too, where Gino does a bit of a check down, and that's the one where K9's running free down the right-hand side. And the thing, a bit of a hat tip to Purdy. I don't think he played miraculously. He played pretty well. And that touchdown pass to Kittle that's a nice ball. That's a nice ball, that touchdown pass. And he's wily enough to get out of trouble. The thing with the Niners, that the most disappointing thing for me in this game is, for the last few years, there have just been busted, wide open plays against us. And then we had a few chances at them. We get a DK touchdown, tugged back because K9's still shuffling. And then we get K9 down the sideline and Gino doesn't see him, although he's rolling that way. It's like, man, you're rolling right to it. And that is also a big delta. When we have busts, boy, do they make us pay. Is it Kittle going down the sideline for 40? Is it Debo slashing us again for a freaking 70-yard touchdown? That is the most, like, we've got to stop the big ass bust plays, because along with sloppiness with the ball, it's also these big busts for these explosives. And you put that in that blender, and you said it earlier, McDonald is supposed to have a very disciplined team. This was, hey, it might not all be there yet. All the players and the pieces might not be there, but they're going to be prepared. They're going to tackle well. They're going to know where to be. We want to say what's not happening right now, Adam. That's not happening still. We're still getting huge bust plays, and that has to get cleaned up, or we have no shot this season.
Oh, 100%. And to go back to your Gino point, dovetail that into what 509 Adventures has here, that he was surprised they only gave up 1 sack. I mean, one of the things that I think Gino struggled with throughout the game was the fact that Nicholas Bosa was a free rusher every single play. It didn't matter if he went up against Cross. It didn't matter if he went up against Forsyth. He just dump trucked them, and that was the end of the play. That was difficult for him to deal with. Now, you talk about missing K9 down the sideline there and kind of not seeing the field well in the second half. I mean, the pick's indicative of that. Missing K9 there is indicative of that. And then later on in that drive, with, I think there was like 250 left or something like that, they throw that corner ball to JSN. Mm-hmm. And if you're watching, DK's underneath of him, wide ass open. Like, for the easy score. Misses him there too. We praise Gino a lot on this channel, and Clinton and I might be the biggest cheerleaders of Geno Smith in all of Seahawks media. But as much as I love Gino, like today's the day he's got to take the slings and arrows too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he does. And I know we got D-Mag Grass there, but I want to pull this up if it hasn't been up yet. I love this. M with a $2 comment. I love that. I love that. So that's hilarious. So,
yeah.
and we do appreciate it. And Adam, like you said, like, no, you don't gotta buy your way onto the screen, say something clever, but hey, and by the way, if you don't have extra bucks, then don't spend it here. Use it for something else. But what you can do is like the video. You can subscribe to the channel, share it with 12s. Those are all free things that do help out. And of course, if you want to throw a super chat in there, then go right ahead. We appreciate that too. It's all good.
Yeah, it is all good. And to be honest, we're kids running the show with Daddy gone, with Brandon not being here. I'm not going to lie, reading the comments and trying to sort that because you guys are active today and we appreciate that. But my poor little pea brain has a hard time going through it. Holy smokes, I'm scrolling down. I'm way behind. You guys are awesome. Thank you for that. So, yeah, defensively, I mean, we talked offensively a little bit about just the poor offensive line play and Gino's struggles and everything that went into that. But one of the things I did like about the offense, Clinton, was maybe their best play of the day consistently was the middle screen to K9 and leaking out about 3 offensive linemen. And that was super fun.
Dude, I love that you're bringing that up. He ended up, I think, with 8. I think he had 8 receptions, not a huge amount of yards. But what I do like the idea that K9 can just be the workhorse, right? And again, not enough running touches, but we kind of got at some point we actually were like, okay, we actually just got to throw the ball. We got to catch up. They took that part of the game away for the most part. Still ran the ball hard, he got a touchdown, had a couple of first downs. Sharps was a good spell, but to see K9 like coming out of Michigan State, this is year 3 for K9. It was like, oh, tremendous runner, but not really great out of the backfield with his hands. And then when you ask people, it was like, well, they just didn't do it. Like MSU just did not have to do it because why? Because he's running for 220 every game. And it was always like, well, I think he can catch. I think he's got pretty good hands, and he does. He's got pretty good secure hands. And to your point, I think that the better point, we can screen. And it was a what if, maybe not a what if, it was a 3 and 3 out after like week 2 when he was out with the oblique after week 1. And there was a screen to Charbonnet where he just couldn't get from 0 to 1 quick enough. And he gets like clipped from behind. I think it was against Dolphins actually. And I'm like, look, this is set up well. This is schemed the right way. We will have this opportunity when we get the faster dude back. So just happy to see it because it does change the game when you get that false start and you're 1st and 15, or you get that holding call and you're 1st and 18, and then you could just duke them a little bit and you get that screen to hit for 9 or 10 or 12. Okay, you're right back in it. It's such a counterpunch that for years we did not have. So even in a loss like this, I think it's a great point, Adam, to say, yeah, man, that's something we could look forward to. And if K9 could get, I don't know, 3 to 5 receptions a week, it elevates the team, and that dude ends up with like 60 a year. He becomes a different type of star, which is super cool.
Yeah, and look, I was saying the last couple games, like, why do we not give the ball to Ken Walker more, whether it's in the passing or the running game? Because he's the 3rd best player on the team, and you put it all together nicely there in terms of what he can do to get you out of a hole. A lot of questions here about our thoughts, Clinton, on JSN, and maybe not just this game, but season-wide overall. And I'd say right now, when it comes to the receivers, JSN, Tyler, or DK, none of them look like a true number 1 in terms of their consistency and just their overall playmaking. I mean, there's spurts where they look good, and there's spurts where, JSN has a inexplicable drop, or Tyler looks afraid to do anything after he catches the ball at this point. And I get it, that I want him to stay healthy and all that, but like we're bordering on the extreme now. And DK just has either too many drops, fumbles, or isn't quite as good at contested catches as I'd like to see. So right now, I think we've got a receiving core that's playing like a trio of 2s.
Possibly. I mean, DK has, I think, shown throughout his 5 years, 6 years now, that he can be a 1. He is the X, he's the alpha, he's got the body, he's got the speed. And if K9 mental mistake if he just stops shuffling his feet, his line is like 98 yards, maybe even 100 yards again with a touchdown. And it's just a different story. Like he got open, he did the thing he's supposed to do again. He got open deep, caught it, scored a touchdown. A guy was moving on the line, so it doesn't go on the board. So I would just asterisk that one and say, that looks a lot different if that touchdown counts. And you said earlier, we're down, but 6 again with 4 minutes to go. And then the pressure's on Turdy to see what happens. JSN, it is a bit underwhelming. And at that, to be fair there, it is, it's similar usage to last year. So last year we heard, we hate the way he's being used. It's similar. There's still a lot of, maybe less around the line of scrimmage, but there's still not the deep shots. We saw deep shots when Drew Lock was the quarterback. Like that's when we saw deep shots with JSN. Couple of concentration drops. He had the fumble there. And I did see a commenter say that the one down the sideline at the very end there, he did get a little alligator arms, like call what it is. Now, he might have gotten his knock blocked off. If he didn't, he very well may have, but facts are facts. He definitely got alligator arms. He shrunk up and did not go for a ball that was pretty well placed.
Yep, it's true. And another question here from the Peanut Gallery, Clinton. What do you think of Trey Brown? What was going on with him today?
Well, I know he got hurt, but before that, Trey's not having his best year, right? And this is like after a bad week last week, and I think a pretty good start to the season. So it's like, it's not throw him over Niagara Falls here, guys. It's like but he did not play well last week, and he was getting a bit exposed again before he got hurt today. So to me, that's like a game and a half of a little bit of a deterioration. He's getting picked on. They are targeting and picking on him a bit. And I think with good reason, because you got Spoon and then other times you got Reek. So who are you going to pick on? It's going to be Trey. Overall, though, the only thing that comes to mind for me, Adam, is like, are there scheme things that he's taking a bit longer to pick up? Because for a couple of years now, he's been sticky and sound. So now all of a sudden, he's not quite as sticky. It's like, well, it's one of two things. Is he injured in the lower body? Like somehow, some way, it's just he's lost a step, maybe. Or there are scheme things where he's just not quite up to speed yet. And I'm not sure if you weigh on one side or the other, dude.
Yeah, I don't know exactly the specific part of his struggles, but one of the things what scheme wise last week was that they kept having him play with outside leverage, and then he'd get toasted on an inside slant.
Yeah.
And so there's a scheme thing. The big touchdown to Debo, like they've got, how did that go? Debo was on the inside, whoever the receiver was on the outside in a tight split, and Trey Brown was over the other receiver, and they were trying to get him in a switch there. They did not get the switch, but instead the scheme had Boye Mafe dropping into coverage, trying to cover Debo down the field. He never even turns around and runs with him. All he does is drop back into a soft zone, and then Julian Love covers, 40 yards of ground back towards the back that doesn't need to be covered at all. And takes a terrible angle, and it all turned to doggy poo right there, much like Clinton's camera. He must have got mad at it with my answer to him about Trey Brown there. Yeah, it's been a struggle for him this season, and really the DBs as a whole. We're not seeing the play out of Spoon that we had hoped for coming into this season. I know I thought that might be something that he'd be used in that Kyle Hamilton type role more throughout this year. We could kind of see his full skill set really shine. But to this point, it feels like Pete Carroll was getting more out of Spoon last year than Mike McDonald is this year. And I think we need to not be afraid to get him out of the slot and get him on the outside receivers here and there. Maybe give Trey some breaks there and see how that goes. And I mean, it can't be worse than what happened with Clinton's camera right there.
You said all brilliant things under the gun, and I appreciate that. So here I am. I do this
Adam face. Yeah.
I do this upgrade. I get this little thingy doohickey first, so I could use an external camera. And it just, I don't know, the glue fell off or something like that. So it crashed and burned, much like our Seahawks, an unforced error right there. And then calamity, right? And then calamity. All right. So we've canvassed quite a bit of this. Other areas or other comments that we do want to chat about. I see Nate Shoots. He goes, if we're 3-5 at week 5, are we sellers at the trade deadline? DK Fant Mafe is in year 3. I mean, my quick thing is I wouldn't sell our good players. Like that's not what I would do. If somebody really wants to overpay for Noah Fant, go ahead. That's fine. Overpay for Noah Fant. Like we have tight ends, but I'm not into trading. Some of our blue chip guys.
Definitely not Mafe. That would not be one on my list. In terms of Fant, to me, he's always been a guy that has a lot of hype and doesn't quite live up to it. Now, does he get a fair shake? Does he always get used the way that he should and get the volume he should? Maybe not. So if we were to move on from him, I like what I'm seeing out of AJ Barner to this point. I don't think I'd have a problem losing him. Now, the DK thing is interesting. And look, we can talk about trading guys at the end of the season and all that, but the long and short of it for me is this. I like DK, and I think he can be a consistent number 1 receiver, and he can keep working on that for sure. But at the end of the day, the wide receiver market is stupid. Like, the money is stupid, considering the wealth of talent in each and every draft, each and every year. I mean, there's not Puka Nacua everywhere, but there's good players up and down the draft at the receiver position every single year. So spending top dollar with this kind of wide receiver market, it gets sticky to me.
Well, let me ask you a question. So potentially, right? I get it. And yes, you get even guys like Brian Thomas on the Jags. Like there are dudes there. And obviously Neighbors is a monster and Marvin Harrison, a little bit of a good start, bad start, here and there. There's talent for sure. And there's other dudes we're not mentioning too. And it is seemingly very deep every single year in college. There's lots of dudes. With all that, if you then relinquish a DK, like and then you have to go draft a wide receiver. If let's say that's the plan, right? Go draft a wide receiver. I don't know. Would you rather just keep the pick you got and take the best guard available, versus like being like, oh, I need to go fill that alpha again. Now I understand you might be getting back a fairly high pick, but mid-season, I don't think we're getting a 1. I don't think we get a 1. I think we might get a 2, which is a-okay. But I guess that's the question is like, for me, I'd rather just keep DK, figure out the finances, and then go take your good pick and go draft a guard because we still need 1 or 2.
Yeah, or maybe even a center. To Luke's comment here, I am frustrated with Connor Williams as well. This is a great point. I had noticed this. I hadn't heard anybody else talking about it. It's a good pickup by you, Luke. There's been twice in critical moments where he just snaps the ball YOLO style and nobody else knows what's going on. Yep. You watch the tape from the Giants game, and this is supposed to be an all-pro center, and Dexter Lawrence just abuses him the entire game. I'm not seeing what we should be getting out of Connor Williams in his play at this point, considering his reputation.
Yeah, no, he's certainly not playing at a Pro Bowl or all-pro level at this point. One of the things that's actually interesting and the great comment by Luke is I forget which crossover show it was. It was a different pod and was, during the week of the Miami game. So they had, another guy on from the Miami side. And I was listening to that. And he goes, oh yeah, he's a good center. He's like, he's quite good. He goes, but he has some snap issues. And he went on to say, he's like, I think he was talking more about that he sailed it over to his head like a couple of times, like in big moments. So this is not like a Seattle thing. And this has happened before. It's happened in his career when he was at Miami. I happened to be listening and the guy flagged it and said, man, he's got some snap. He goes, especially in shotgun. So between sailing it over his head and then just not having the timing right, it's not the first time he did it this year either. Like you mentioned the Giants game, I think earlier in the season too, he had 1 or 2 others where he had the false start because he wasn't the guy moving or whatever it might be, right? Or is the only guy moving. So yeah, man, like that needs to get tightened up. It's not that we're spending huge money on him. It's a 1-year contract, but we sure are looking for just a steady Eddie there right now. And to not have that dead center, also it's causing havoc, man, for sure.
You betcha. So this ties in a little bit with the previous comment from KHY. He was a all-pro center with Miami. He was garbage in Dallas as a guard. You are correct. I like this comment here because I'm not going to try to pronounce 4 consonants in a row.
Roger Luke.
Yeah.
Maybe Roger Luke.
Roger Luke. Yeah. All right. You're smarter than me. Good job, Clinton. But this really is a smart comment because it really ties in Ranger Luke. Oh,
Ranger Luke.
Golly.
I still like Roger Luke, but that's fine.
Ranger's way cooler. I love it. Okay. But this is a smart comment.
I hate the Rangers. I'm an Islander fan. Can't like the Rangers.
I'm thinking like Army Rangers, dude. What are you talking about?
I get it. I just don't like the word. It's fine.
Okay. All right, fine. You can be wrong on that too. But no, at the end of the day, I love this comment because it really does speak to the way that football is played and how a team needs to be built. Once that O-line is secure, which I don't know, might be in my child's lifetime, definitely not mine. Then yes, it'll be a lot easier on the quarterback, which then gives time for the receivers to run their routes and get open, and it all flows downstream. It's trickle down football. And it's the way it works.
Yeah, I saw a couple of different comments talking about that were similar, that were around like, hey, up tempo is all we got, or the short game's all we got. Yes, there was quite a bit of that, but there was still, I know it's a busted O-line. I think they did there was 1 sack and that was at the end of the game. So the stats are what they are. And Gino did it. We talked about it earlier, did a nice job moving up pocket, escaping to the right a couple times. I just don't see it as only short game and only up tempo. I'm trying to pull some plays from my brain, but to me, there's enough stuff that's the medium size stuff, the doubles that are also there. We have been lacking some of the home run stuff, but again, one got taken off the board today. I am still looking for year 1 Gino, where the touchdown percentages were really way up there. He was super efficient, but he was also like the best deep ball passer in the league. And Adam, do you think that's just simply he had more time?
Yeah, I think Waldron ran a little bit more play action and things like that helped to open up things a little further downfield into, Brandon's comment here earlier, Brandon Jana, about I'm not looking to trade DK before the deadline. To me, that discussion was after the season's over and then maybe think about it, but no, definitely not in season. That is silly to me as well.
Yeah. And we talked earlier, you asked me earlier too, and I forgot to mention that, Lockett, Lockett just keeps, he goes down after he catches the ball, and I don't love that, but he might be our most consistent wide receiver, like week in, week out. He might be the most consistent dude. So at 10 years in, I don't have any problems with Lockett whatsoever. I really just don't. I think he's solid, still gets open. We needed the big play today to get things started. 37-yarder down the line. By the way, beautiful ball, beautiful route by Lockett, and doing the subtle things to get away at the very last second. And Gino throwing him open. That ain't no check down. That's not quick game. That was, hitting him down the sidelines in stride. And it was a crucial moment. It kickstarted that whole drive. Now we only get 3 on that drive, but Lockett gave it the boost that we needed at that moment.
Look, I'm not trying to throw shade at Tyler in any way. It's just a fact of the matter right now. And all great players, and make no mistake, he's a great player. There comes a point in their career that they do not want to be hit anymore.
Oh, yeah.
I listened to Brett Favre talk about it when he finally knew that it was time to actually retire. And it's because he didn't want to get hit anymore. People asked him, well, you could still play right now. I was like, oh, yeah, I can wing it. I just don't want to get hit anymore. And that's where it's at for Tyler right now. He just literally doesn't want to get hit anymore. And I think that that's not a great thing going forward. And if it were me, I would advise him at this point, if this is how he's feeling with his body and where he's at, that this would be the last hurrah. And no better way to honor that than to get this thing turned around going the next couple weeks here and give him a good push going out here and maybe try to make a playoff run.
Yeah, you mentioned not wanting to get hit anymore for Tyler. And that's how I'm feeling, man. It's like, I don't want to get hit anymore. I don't, especially by the 49ers. I don't want to I don't want these big blowout, things that are happening on our field where I got to watch freaking Kittle and Juszczyk go hug their wives and hand them balls separately. They both scored touchdowns, as if the first one wasn't enough. And that's what I'm tired of. So we just, for me, look, I know we're going to talk about it this week. We'll do 3 in 3 out, where we look at some of the micro moments and some of the good that was there. I already have a couple of great ones that I jotted down. We'll look forward to that. But this team's got to get right. At least we have a breath. I think it's one of those things where if we preseason said, hey, at 6 games, we're 3 in 3. Looking at the schedule, probably been like, I'd really prefer 4 and 2. Like really, knowing the opponents. But 3 and 3 wouldn't have been a disaster. It's not. Now losing 3 in a row is, but at least we now get this mini bye. We get a chance to just breathe a little bit and try and fix some of this, because what we talked about the entire week leading up was, well, the entire week was like 2 days, is how much stuff can you actually fix if you're just in shorts? Like what can you actually fix? And again, better run D up the middle, crappy run D on the edge. All right. We got 10 days to go play an Atlanta team who plays well at home, and they got a big offensive line, which again, they got a big offensive line, but they do not get after the quarterback. They can't get after the quarterback in a place where Geno plays well, back in a dome. Adam, all I can say is 10 days, man. We got to take it. We got to get right. And we've got to see improvements and no busted plays against this Falcons team and just get back to the winning side of the ledger, man.
Well, just to the Falcons real quick about no pass rush. Grady Jarrett always has that one game a year where he gets like 90 sacks. And I'm worried about that. So just put that on your radar. Maybe this is that one game a year that he's really good. But in terms of the short week, I think that's a good topic that you bring up here. Yeah. Because I think that it showed on the field that this coaching staff had a very difficult time getting a team prepared in a very short week. And you saw so many mental mistakes over and over and over again throughout this game, whether it was bad interceptions, bad penalties, just bonehead plays. You mentioned special teams and when they're catching the ball, when they're not, and just not protecting the ball overall. I think this young coaching staff got a slap across the face after a very truncated week. And to your point, I think they all need this extra little mini bye here to take a breath and get their heads right.
Yeah. And I do want to say one positive thing to maybe like land us on is this. Last year, I forget the exact record at the time, but we were like 5 and 3 at one point. And then we had that gauntlet run, and it involved the Thursday night game versus the Niners. We lost that stupid game to the Rams where Myers misses the field goal at the end, but it never should have came down to that, where we're up like 13-0 at halftime or something like that. So we lose that game on Sunday, and we come back and we get blown out by the Niners on Thursday night on Thanksgiving. And it was wrapped in a couple of other losses. And the season went from very, very promising to like, we're done. We have basically no shot. And it was in a condensed time frame. This year, I think we just hit that crunch. And I guess the positive thing is it's 3 and 3. We're tied for first place, and it's way earlier. We're not taking those like killer body blows at the end of November. It is, the beginning of October still. So there's time to fix this. There's time to get this right. And there are enough glimmers and pockets of really good that I'm still like, man, this team could still turn it around. Pretty hard schedule going forward. Again, would love to be 4 and 2, but I'd rather be here 3 and 3 this year than where we were after running that gauntlet last year and being basically out later. I feel a little bit better than I did that time last year. That's my take.
It's an interesting thought. I think let's get to M here with the $10 super chat. Thank you, Tom, man. I appreciate all of the comments that you've been making throughout the day here. And I don't think that the hero journey to a trophy will be this year. I never thought that to begin the season. But I do think that this could be a hero's journey to a trophy in the next, 2 to 5 years. Like we do need to take a breath and, kind of let this coaching staff figure it out. Listen to Mike and everybody talk at their pressers, and they're even saying, hey man, it's going to take us time. We got to sit and figure it out. And like, we're all learning on the fly here, and it's gonna be a while. It's part of a legit rebuild, a giant reset. And so we can all take a breath. As far as this being the tough stretch and feeling better about where we are now compared to where we were after we went through, what was it? Niners, Eagles, Cowboys, Niners.
Yeah.
I think was that stretch, or, some variation of that order.
Yep.
The Giants aren't a playoff team. Like, I don't feel better about that part of it. I do feel better about where we are now because there does seem to be some things that they can build on.
Yeah. And we got Kimchi helping us out here too with a 499 super chat. It says, thank you, Kimchi. Says, hey guys, I think it'll be cool if you guys can link up with Lofa and Brett one of these days for a post-game interview. Go Hawks. We'll leave that to Brandon, but that's a great idea. And I think Brandon can make those connections happen because that's what he does. He'll be behind the scenes making that work. But I think we can make it work, Kimchi. All right. So, dude, for me, it is now 12:31 a.m. because I'm on the East Coast. And I'm gonna call it a night, but look, we got 10 days now to reboot, refresh, put out some more content. If you've been hanging with us the whole time, we got nearly 300 people here live. Thank you. All the super chats, thank you. Even in defeat, we're here hanging out and we love that. But head to YouTube, hit the likes if you're watching it there. Subscribe. It really does help out a lot. And Adam, anything else that they should be doing if they're getting like extra value from us?
Hey, if you're getting extra value from us, what you're going to do is you're going to crack open a beer when you're done listening to this. You're going to take a deep breath. You're going to give this coaching staff some time and know that even though we've had a little bit of a lull here and it hasn't looked amazing, and maybe this year isn't going to be 12 wins and a chip, we've got a good coach. We're on the right track. Take a deep breath. It's going to be okay. That's what you can do.
I love it. And I think with that,
there's only one thing left to say.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.